And might I throw the Benko at Benko? The anti-Benko for Benko? Let's not. Let's try something else. And what I have in mind is the Slav. And knight f3. Okay, I want to try this out. I want to learn more about this, so I'm going to play it. Alright. Let's get my bishop to f5. I waste time. I waste time by taking like this. And I give my opponent a better center. But this is a weakness. Now that bishop move. Interesting. If I play here, there is this e4 move. Should I play my knight here? Let's go with it. And now I think I might want to throw a question at this dark square bishop. I don't want e4 to come in one shot. Throw a question at this. Let's do it. Let's see what that dark square bishop has up its sleeve. Now I'm going to do this, I think. Yeah, if e4 is played now, I can back up, and if then e5, I'm in the spot to play g5 in one shot. Also, one other thing I want to get in is this move, so I could follow up with bishop b4. But, you know, instead of that, I'm going to take into account a central expansion. I think this is still good, even though I'm not making use of the b4 square right away. It's at least stopping some a5, maybe knight a4 ideas, eyeing the c5, b6 squares. This move is no longer available, needs a rook or queen support. And, well, now we're having the light square bishops come off, so let's not waste too much time there or there. Castle. I guess e4 is available right now. And then what? My queen should probably go elsewhere. I think it's pretty good here. I don't really intend on grabbing that pawn. In fact, taking it loses my queen to rook on d to b1. Queen a6 is on my mind. I think having the queens off the board would benefit me a little bit more. Or, well, I don't know if I should state it in that way. I think it would make life easier for me in this position to get the queens off. So let's see what decision white makes. I don't know if it's objectively best, but again, I am taking into account pretty much always the current situation we're in. That is a blitz game, and trying to make moves that are going to make my opponent think, chew up their time. And now, okay, I could grab this and they get my bishop. Should I be worried about that? Let's play here. Not too afraid of that move. I think I might want to come back here. Or I might want to, if the position becomes a bit more simplified, I might want to try rook b6. I would be... There would be some things I'd have to be cautious about. If there's still a couple knights on the board and I'm throwing my rook on b6 because maybe there's possibilities that my rook could get trapped. But now that it's a bit more simplified, I was actually ready to do that. It's actually illegal. Don't do that. Don't you dare do that. Let's take with my knight. I like having my bishop around to control this b4 advance. If this comes in, then it could be these white rooks that could be placing pressure on the black pawns. This knight is heading for a wonderful square. A wonderful square. Let's do this. And as a follow-up, what? This knight on d3 is fantastic. So I'm going to look to get that bishop. And now, what more? This knight is just fantastic. How about this? This knight's going to sit right here. I keep pointing it out because it's fantastic. Has just these wonderful support points, and it would seem like my bishop playing here is an important idea. If I do this, I'm hitting a pawn, but it's not an inconvenience. The king comes here, defends, and is closer to the center. Might I want to look into fixating this g3 pawn on g3? h5, g4. Rook here to here. I can't even go here to attack the pawn because that beastly knight. He's a beast. Huh. Fishing for a plan here. I don't know that I really have a good one. I just don't know. I just don't know, do I? Let's try this. I haven't put a lot of thought into it, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I guess my rooks just are kind of frozen. Let's get king improvement. I might want to look into this or this. I think king f2. I don't know. I don't know. Struggling here. This knight is just I can't say enough about that knight, and now it has made a decision. The decision being, do I want to give it my bishop? I think so. And let's pivot here. I think my king has a faster track towards this is good for me now. Pretty sure. I want to get at this pawn. I think I do this. King position very soon. Need to work on king position. Rook activity is happening with this b6 move. And now after that, I think their rook is a bit more passive. I just take right away. Let's do this, king position. Less than a minute. And king here. Take and then chase that rook away and then get my rook active. I'm really just trying to arrive at a position where I have an active rook versus their passive rook. And now right here is as active as I could get, and I'm not able to move as smoothly with my pieces here. I don't want to undouble their pawns. I think I should run with why not that move? And maybe this and then c4. I want to get at that a4 pawn. I want to keep this rook tied down to the defense of the pawn. Maybe I could bring my I'm going to try for this. I have more. Let me see something here. Rook there, pawn push. Really don't have anything. Let's try this again. No, I could have done it. I could have done it. Okay, I think now it works because the king goes there and is interfering with the rook. They have 20 seconds to figure this out. I wanted to stop their rook from getting to h1, so that got very timely right there. And now king improvement. King improvement. I'm seeing another thing. I want my rook on f2. Rook on f2 is the plan. And my king should probably go opposite, get out of being opposite their rook. So king to c6 and then look for an eventual c4 push. And actually I'm going to triangulate for a sec. No. Is this going to be repetition? Okay, I'm going to do this. Rook on f2. Pawn push next. Okay, I could get a passed pawn. Is this going to be fast enough though? Oh, this is working now. This is definitely working right now. I could give check. Or is it definitely working? Is it? Oh. The king has to go back. No. Okay. Pawn push, pawn push. Just make sure I get this. I almost got in the way there with my pieces. Oh, stalemate! I forgot those moves weren't coming with check. Good game. I thought they were coming with check. I forgot. Oops. It happens. Oh, good game. That was an interesting endgame, too. Alright, let's flip that board. For a second, I thought it said drawn because I was down on time, but I wasn't down on time. I played poorly with those last moves. That sneaky king. That sneaky Benko. Alright, let's go back here. What's the scoop? This is Slav Defense. The Dutch? The Dutch? I labeled it recently because I played it against Potzer and posted it to YouTube. And when I looked it up to make sure of the particular variation, I think they called it the Queen's Gambit Declined Slav Dutch. And it involves this when you're seeing that A4 move in response to D takes, and then you're seeing A4 and then... Well, actually, I don't know. I know it's just, at least we could say it's going to be a Slav, but I guess I can't be more specific right now. But interesting game. I think it's pretty equal here. I don't know. Okay, queen's coming off. Maybe queen back, and then you could get an E4 or something. But then it being on C2, eventually a knight B4. So maybe it's quite all right that the queens are off. Of a trade, and I like this a real lot. I really like the knight maneuver. I think it's really good. You know, come to think of it, and okay, yes, my opponent's saying it's kind of a Moscow variation. If we would have taken on F6 with the bishop. Okay. Let's see. I guess there's, you know, I guess there's another route to the D3 square. I guess we could also just, and I see myself doing this a real lot. Like, I'm thinking in reverse when it comes to maneuvering to a particular square. Like, I'll be thinking knight E1 to D3 when really, okay, there's knight E5 here. It really isn't going to make too much of a difference. I don't think it would make too much of a difference. I have the bishop versus knight, but I don't know. And here's another thing. The current position of the knight versus my bishop, I have to kind of just wait around and watch over that C5 square. So this is a move that I was, in some sense, just kind of happy to see. Because I knew, okay, I could get rid of that pesky knight. But if he doesn't commit just yet, I'm having to watch out for C5, E5. Maybe, in other words, it's better to keep me guessing about the knight's position. Maybe you'll go here, maybe you'll go here. Don't show your hand just yet. I think your knight is more annoying than my bishop. Maybe that's a quick summary. In this rook endgame, I'm just looking to get my rook versus a passive rook. So I've established that, and I don't know if I really should have been able to get that advantage. I was trying to be clever with my timing with rook B1, rook B8 to H8, but yeah, like right now I think rook back, and as soon as the king went here, because if I tried to move sooner, for example, right now, well, where was that first instance where I could have played to H8? Right here I went back, the king went here. Now if I come over to this square, the rook plays to C1. It's no longer needed to defend at B3. And if I push on H4, there's rook to H1. And in order to save a pawn, I have to play to H3, and I wasn't so sure about that. Maybe it would have been okay, but I was trying to be sneaky with getting to this position again with the king being on c2, so that when I come over here, there isn't an opportunity to get to the rook, to get that white rook to h1 in time. So I get active, and well, this is, I think this turns out to be winning. Although, what about takes? Takes, king here. Then I do this. Takes, king takes here. I'd actually end up... No, I wouldn't end up queening. Maybe you could get away with taking the rook. Somebody run the calculation on this real quick. Let me know if I'm right on it. If rook takes rook here, who stands better? I think it might be white. I think this is a bad decision by me to play f2. Rook f2. Takes, king e2. c4. Takes, king takes f2. c3, king e2. You're there in time. Interesting. I think that's at least a draw for white. Although, wait a second. This is getting to be a really interesting king and pawn endgame. Having to do some visual calculations here. So run with this. Let's see if rook takes, pawn takes. I think it's actually winning for black, because of this one pawn on f5 restricting both an e4 and g4 advance. And man, rook takes, pawn takes, king e2, c4, pawn takes, king takes f, king c5. Eventually gets to a point where black can stalemate the white king on c1, and then one of the white pawns needs to push, and I could just capture and then run down with the queen, giving mate. Is anybody else able to follow that? I think that's how it would run if rook takes rook were played, only because this pawn right here is clamping down on both an e4 and g4 push. That would have been an interesting endgame, and I guess that said, it was important for black to not be taking my rook, but maybe instead of rook e2, maybe rook to c2 is better to watch out for this pawn push. Of course, I guess I could still wait around a little bit and play king here and then push. So that was it's got to be a bit uncomfortable having this connection point on f2. But interesting game. Yeah. See, this is a similar situation, but if you could, this is a similar situation. If you could imagine this position right here, where even if I didn't have this g3 pawn, I think it's still winning. Even though I'm down a pawn, and this king could be stopping my pawn from going, I think it's still a win. Anyhow, very good game. Very interesting endgame as well right there, that rook and pawn endgame. Very nice.